Hello and welcome back to Podcasting's Praxis. I'm David, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Rob, mine are he and him.
And I'm Alistair, my pronouns are also he and him.
Yeah, no Jamie. Jamie's, let's assume naughty stepped, by, not us, obviously, we don't have that power, obviously, that would be fucking foolish. But
yeah, Jamie has naughty stepped himself out of spite.
Yeah, yes. Just to not be here for the sake of a night off. So, to join us, we've brought on friend of the pod, Phil McDuff.
Hello, I'm Phil. My pronouns are he, him.
Lovely to have you here, mate.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I wanted to start for a change of pace. I thought we'd start in the US, where you know how things are like really good in like the global economy in general. What about how the West's consumer societies are able to consume and buy cars and fridges and whatnots. You know how that kind of
Rob, I am well aware of this, and that's why I'm qualified to write government policy.
Exactly. So in US good news, but I suspect coming soon to the UK, Klarna, the buy now pay lender later of see previous pods, has
pay lender later.
No, they have signed a partnership with DoorDash, which is essentially Uber Eats for America, as a partner. So now you can genuinely, in the US, order a kebab on DoorDash and then split the payments into 4 easy installments, or you could defer the whole payment to a date that aligns with your paycheck landing in your account.
Yeah, I mean, you can already do that here. Like, it's about time the American banking system caught up, frankly.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure if you were so inclined, you can take out a down payment or make a down payment on a pizza from Domino's.
Rob, I have many years ago, I believe with the wonders of PayPal Credit, set up a monthly payment plan for a shitty pizza. I have done this. It's doable.
Holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
Did anyone else just feel the contradictions heighten?
No. I'm feeling very leveled out. That's because of these 4 easy installments that I'm on.
Yeah. You too can have your very own contradiction in 5 monthly payments.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the only deal that Klarna has landed. They've also struck a similar deal with Walmart, so you can now get your groceries delivered and then defer payment or pay in installments for the food you eat. And I'm sure that is the sign, of a healthy economy.
That one, I think you can technically already do that here as well, but it's a bit more convoluted, and I think only certain companies will let you do it. Like you can order shopping on Just Eat, but I don't think you can do monthly shit on Just Eat. Fairly sure you can on Uber Eats though.
Yeah, if you do through Asda, you can only pay for they're now sort of parking lots in 4 easy installments.
It kind of ties in with and this is how prepared I am, because I read a thing online earlier on today. I'm pretty sure I saw something that basically pointed out that in America, people earning over $250,000 a year were behind growth in consumption year on year, when everyone earning under that was basically decreasing their consumption because everything was going down. So basically the super rich are getting rich enough in order to basically bolster growth in the face of everybody else losing money.
You've heard of carbon offsetting. We're doing growth offsetting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to complete the whole Victorian paradigm, we do need to have some insane level conspicuous consumption to make for the shortfall of people on less than $250,000 a year. Jesus fucking Christ!
It is. We are, well, not just we, but capitalism is just reinventing the aristocracy. Basically, there's a tiny fraction of society who have all of the money, and everyone else can fuck off.
Yeah, well, I mean,
can't wait for it to reinvent guillotines.
Yeah, it's actually good for the economy to be entirely based on the Upper East Side in New York City.
Yeah. The point of an economy is you need to make it as top heavy as possible so that one day everyone decides now's the time for a windfall. wheels out a big funny looking machine and makes that happen.
Yeah.
You need to make your economy as top heavy as possible so you can be closer to God.
Yeah. Some people Yeah. Some people are calling their New York apartment the new Winter Palace.
Don't look up how that story ends.
Yeah. This is one more bit from Klarna's own press release about this deal with DoorDash. Our partnership with DoorDash marks an important milestone in Klarna's expansion into everyday spending categories.
What if you could just remove your monthly income in one easy monthly payment?
Yeah. What if you just like drained the coffers like the second it hit your account? Like it would just be like, you pay your rent, you pay your bills, and then you pay your Klarna, and then like the teller just resets to zero, and because you're really sad, you just order an extra kebab.
I like how we're doing this first as farce, then as tragedy, because at least the first time when you had predatory money lending type shit like this, it was at least advertised by fucking Dolmio puppets or whatever the fuck the one adverts were.
Yeah, that giant guy yelling Wonga at you at 4 p.m.
Yeah, but that bring that back at the very least. Like, don't deprive of us all the treats at the same time as we're fucking bank balances.
Well, at least James Ball's happy.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake.
But this is the same thing that capitalism always invents. Because capitalists never want to pay wages because that's bad, but they will lend you the money to prop up consumption. So it's always that thing of them trying to pay as little in actual wages as possible, lend you as much money as possible they get back, and then they keep pushing that until eventually the entire economy falls over in a big explosion.
I've got this crazy idea. What if we took away all of the wages and we just, we cut out the middleman, and the company that you work for can just give you tokens that you can exchange for goods and services.
Right.
Yeah. And you could all live in a town near the employer, cut down on all the transport costs. Perfect plan. What could go wrong?
Or would you mean woke 15-minute city? I think not.
Oh no! Fuck.
Not like that.
You know what's wild? So I'm on a little kick of going and reading like books that I should have read. And recently I read The Grapes of Wrath for the first time. And who fucking boy has nothing fucking changed since that was written? It's one of those. Yeah, I'm reading through it and going, oh god. Yeah. It's
all I have on my brain right now is the Dormio bailiffs. It's like a knock on the door. It's like, it's a payday.
You don't have to let a Muppet in, unless they've got a warrant.
Yeah. Yeah. Top tip: if you sprinkle salt across your doorstep, the Dormio puppets can't get in.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Anyway, shall we briefly return to these?
Surely, if it was the Dolmio puppets, it would be like dried basil you had to sprinkle across the doorstep.
No, that invites them in. That's the other way around. If you tie like a sprig of dried basil on your door, like that's the sign that they're welcome.
Damn. All right, I bow to your expertise in the Dolmio vampire theology.
Yeah.
I'll fire up the Dolmio Muppets wiki.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we briefly return back to the United Kingdom? So you remember how, like a while back, we talked about it on the pod, how Labour cut all those transport routes, but they kept the new Oxford-Cambridge link because that area is going to be, the growth zone. I forget there was a name for it, but there was one. You remember that? And how
it's one of my least favourite Sonic levels.
And how we're going to build, 1.5 million homes, like we're really going to do it this time.
So yeah. By changing absolutely nothing, we're going to build 1.5 million new homes.
Yeah. So this, so somebody put those two bright ideas together, and it turns out it's a giant private collaboration between several Oxford University colleges, several developers, as well as Oxford Council, and they wanted to build about 18,000 new homes in a region that is desperately short on new houses and has experienced massive house price growth. So, that would seem like a reasonably good idea, right?
It's so cool to me that this sounds like Oxford or these Oxford colleges are trying to become landlords for like
they are
regular people, whereas pretty much every university that I'm aware of has sold off all of their student housing stock because students are obviously subhuman and therefore can just eat shit. But the money of real people, human adults with jobs, probably, that sounds great. Let's extract a rent from them.
I mean, Oxford University is a stupidly unusual. I have a friend who works within the belly of the beast, and Oxford City it's a university with bits of city in it. Because of the amount of stuff in the centre of Oxford that Oxford University owns. It's wild. It has been a massive landlord for like 1,000 years.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole different pod. But this particularly, so there were several projects going on to build these new homes. One of them, one of the large ones, called the Oxpens project, but it's hit a teeny tiny snags in its construction, and that snag is called Thames Water, and its inability to process raw sewage.
Remind me what Thames Water does again.
Mainly give money to its offshore investors, but don't worry about it.
Gunge production.
Dividends, merely, is what Thames Water does.
Yeah.
So the sewage...
Why don't we rescue Thames Water by bringing back Noel Edmonds' house party? They can sell him the gunge, and then they get their money, and then they can do some fucking work on the water.
Yeah, this is why we need a US-UK trade deal, because we'd be able to export massive amounts of gunge to Nickelodeon Studios.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and if they don't keep up their bills on time, we send Mr. Blobby to take the money from them.
No, we send the fucking Dormia puppets. Americans wouldn't know what to do when they got, the felt knock on the door. Sewage in and around Oxford is the responsibility of Thames Water because it's all geographically delineated and it's a monopoly. But now there's so much shit in the water that the entirely toothless Environment Agency has said to this new construction project that look, you can only build the houses, but they're not allowed to be occupied until the sewage capacity has increased to the point that all these new houses don't add to the massive existing, sewage problem in that area. This is also the position of Oxford Council.
Actually, this could work in a way that's quite, works in praxis, because you should hold in a shit until you get to work, really.
Yes.
That way you don't get to shit in your house, and you get to shit in company time. It's a win-win.
Yeah, exactly.
I absolutely love this because it's the perfect Labour Party policy, because it hits their target of we're building houses, but in a way that is completely useless. Yeah. Which is absolutely Labour Party fully nailed on. It's what they do.
But also, crucially, they are not going to hit the target either.
No, I mean, they're not going to hit the target, but also, even the houses they do build, you can't live in them. They've got you coming and going. It's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. So
what if a Potemkin village had a squeaky voice?
So obviously, now the developers have said, well, if we're allowed to build the houses, but then nobody's allowed to move in and buy the houses off us, we're obviously not going to build the houses, because why would we? Because we're just sitting on this stock and we can't sell off and make a profit. And because Thames Water has said, look, we promised the upgrades to the Oxford sewage works would be done in 2027, but they're now going to be done in 2031 instead. This whole project is now being delayed and delayed and delayed. But now the developers have jointly written to the government to quote unquote solve this issue. This is from a piece in Oxford Union, by the way. And apparently, one of the solutions that is this is from a piece in the Oxford Clarion. So the new idea is, while we're all waiting for Thames Water to upgrade the sewage facility, is this is from the piece, is rumoured to be temporary holding tanks with sewage trucked away to a nearby treatment plant owned by the developers.
Yes, privately owned cesspits that you have to rent.
Yes,
but it's temporary in the sense that it's till 2031, and looking at my calendar, it's 2025. So that's 6 years, which is pushing
of wet
temporary
sewage being
quite a
trucked
lot.
through your new development.
Yeah,
I look forward to this bold new era in what could be the next space race between us and the UAE. How many trucks of shit can you transport in one day? Let's find out.
But it's a dunny wagon. This is like we've solved this problem. This is how to get the fresh water in and how to get the shit out is like kind of the first infrastructural problem that every city has to solve. The fucking Romans were figuring this stuff out.
Yeah.
2,000 years ago.
Let's not say we solved this problem.
Well, yeah,
somebody else did that.
We've gone back to what if man with big truck and shovel? We've gone back to that in this country.
Yeah.
Bring out your shits.
Yeah.
The night soil. Remember when the night soil men were hard?
Literally, it's literally the night soil man. Like,
Yep. We can finally return with a V.
Yeah.
Fighter of the day soil, man.
Yeah. But what I'm betting what's going to
Champion
happen.
of the bum.
What I'm gonna bet, what I'm betting is going to happen instead is that if you remember, like all that talk of we're in favor of the builders, not the blockers, and the gutting of the regulatory state. I'm fairly sure that like Angela Rayner is just like gonna like demand that Oxford City and the Environment Agency shut up and that we just like push another 20,000 houses worth of shit in the local rivers because you can't swim in them anymore anyway. So like, what's a few more turds among friends essentially?
I mean, it's probably an entirely different pod, this, and I have such a hobby horse about this, like, just get rid of regulations, we just have to build houses sort of stuff, because this stuff, like, how is the sewage, what are the roads, where are the public transport, where are the schools, all that sort of stuff, this is the stuff that's never considered when just give planning permission to any old fucking twat who shows up and says he's going to build a bunch of cardboard houses on a field. And this is the stuff that always falls down, and this is... sorry, I know, different pod, but this entire, like, kind of thing of not planning is so frustrating, and it's why this whole, we're just going to build loads and loads of houses and get rid of planning regulations and not require planning is a problem, because you have to plan settlements. And again, to go back to, like, 2,000 years ago, you have to plan them, you have to have sewers, you have to have roads, you have to have a plan. It's a thing. Fuck's sake.
No, I think you'll find that Barrett Home has this all well in hand, and I think you're too pretty to worry about things like that.
Any day now, Angela Rayner will figure out aqueducts and we'll sort it.
Oh God, can you imagine like the Richard Branson sponsored aqueduct, like the the Branson Public Works that like there's a public day of thanks.
Because an aqueduct is an actual bit of engineering and a bit of construction, and we're not allowed that. We're not allowed public works. We're not allowed anything like that. We have to have some shitty private contracted trucks to show up, and a man with a fucking wheelbarrow that you put the shit in. That's what we get. An aqueduct would be a step up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're only allowed to have a return on investment that is infinite because you spent no money and you get it all back. So infinite return. That's what you learn as whatever the fuck it was Rachel Reeves was doing when she worked for that bank that I forget whether it is even the Bank of England at this point. Yeah, the complaints team.
RBS,
yeah, that one.
So there's like, before we get to Phil's piece in Novara, which I definitely want to get to, I wanted to do like one more like bit of, hey, remember when that happened and everybody told us that there was nothing going on. And this was, all the freebies, the Taylor Swift tickets. Keir Starmer went to like, I don't know, $100,000 worth of free football matches or whatever. All that shit. Remember, like when that was a big thing, people like that's a big
people
scandal.
Looked in the big book of crimes and realised that actually there are a bunch of crimes happening.
Yeah. Specifically because the people doing the crimes wrote them down on the form that says this is legalized crime.
Yeah.
At the time, this was the government's response from a couple months ago. This is in The Guardian. The business secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, said on Thursday that Starmer's attendance at Arsenal football games and Taylor Swift concerts was part of the job. The cabinet minister said he had no problem with politicians accepting gifts that can be of a more personal nature, and said hard-working politicians were entitled to a bit of relaxation. Starmer also defended his decision to accept a free box at Arsenal, saying that it would save the taxpayer a fortune on security. Incidentally, the same exact reason that Rachel Reeves used this week when it turned out she got free tickets to see Sabrina Carpenter, which, so just, it's all very consistent. And the most important thing that I remember about that is like there were, that they all said, look, we were just there to have a good time, to hang out with our mates, the corporate lobbyists, and there's nothing untoward going on here. There's no lobbying going on. These are grown adults. They know how to, make the difference, right? That was very clearly stated. Except, there was a piece in Bloomberg, I think this week, quote Bloomberg, the UK is considering paring back the powers of its planned football regulator as part of a wider clampdown on bureaucracy. And weirdly enough, a lot of those tickets were given out by the Football Association. It's very strange stuff going on.
Look, it's not corruption, Rob, because I got a personal gift, and then at a later time, another time in the future, you see, I gave them what they wanted, and those two things are temporally different.
Yes.
So long as those things happen with a peekaboo in the middle somewhere, it's fine.
I mean, it's just utterly risible dog shit, right? I mean, anyone who has ever worked a job where you have to do any kind of fucking mandatory training, where you're not allowed to give gifts to clients of over like £10 or whatever,
yeah, or accept a pen.
Yeah, exactly. It's just completely insane that it's. I mean, the whole point of no gifts being like allowed is to completely absolve yourself of any perception of corruption as a business. And that doesn't apply when you're a lawmaker, because you've got the big book of crimes that says the crimes are okay. So that's different, because being perceived to be corrupt is different than being actually corrupt. And in this scenario, that's fine.
Well, I still don't think that it was as simple as a quid pro quo of here's some nice concert or football tickets. By the way, can you destroy this football regulator for us? The point of those an evening in the skybox is that you get enough of a personal connection with Keir Starmer or his assistants that when you do need something real a few months down the line, this football regulator, these guys will pick up the phone and listen to you. That's the point of all these little freebies and stuff.
Access. We did this. Cash for access was a thing during the last fucking Labour government. We did this. It's already happened. Stop repeating things in the second season, you fucking pricks.
So one more bit from Bloomberg, and then we'll move on as well. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's office is reviewing the proposals to ensure they don't stifle the growth of the Premier League and disincentivize overseas investment in Britain's biggest football clubs, according to people familiar with the matter. The regulator is unlikely to be scrapped, but could be watered down through further amendments to the legislation that is being finalised right now. And what I've always thought, and this is we'll probably do a whole episode on this because I was reading around it. It's actually quite interesting. But what I've always thought of in general, and I don't give a shit about football, is what the Premier League needs is more money running through it. I've always thought, what a poor bunch of bastards.
This was sort of my thing here, is I'm sort of thinking, it doesn't feel as if the Premier League is lacking for millions and millions of dollars and various Saudi investment, firms just turning on a big fire hose of dubiously sourced money. What problem are they trying to solve here?
Growth, Phil. They want growth, and the FA is a growth industry. Football is a growth industry.
Silly me.
Yeah.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Everything is fucking expensive.
Subscribe to Praxiscast at patreon.com/Praxiscast.
Which leads us quite neatly onto your like good piece that you wrote for Novara. We'll put a link in the show description, brackets if you remember.
50-50.
So I really liked your piece because it's partially about the incoming benefits cuts that we'll talk a little bit about on this episode. But I think it's the more interesting point to me is not that these people are being cruel in very sadistic ways, because that's kind of baked into the cake. To me, what I find really interesting in your piece is like the sort of theory about like that this is that they are doing this out of like a sort of deep matter of conviction, almost like a theology of growth, I think is probably maybe a nice way to put it.
I mean, I was literally thinking earlier of Rachel Reeves turning up to that housing estate in Oxford and laying a growth prayer down to ensure that the house harvest is bountiful in 2031. So
yeah, it's really weird. They put a guy in a wheelchair and a wicker man. I'm not sure why that is, but
oh, fuck. Oh.
Yeah, I mean the way that I've sort of been approaching it, since 2019, I've been very interested in the idea of why are they like this?
Yes,
and because it's a source of frustration and fascination. It feels like everyone can look at them doing this, and it doesn't make any fucking sense. It doesn't make any sense economically. It doesn't make any sense politically. It doesn't make any sense. Like, they're not popular. No one likes this. This isn't for anybody.
No, the latest batch of reforms isn't even like popular with like LBC listeners and like Guardian readers, the world's most credulous rubes.
It's sort of because they've run out. Like one of the wild things about this is we've had 15 years of the Tory party basically coming in and saying, right, we're going to make disability benefits such an absolute fucking sadistic horror show that only people who desperately need it and can get through the like kind of weird like kind of jumps and flaming hoops and probably have external support. Only those people can get it. So there are just loads and loads of people who can't even get it, who get booted out of the system.
They would hire a Sphinx to do the PIP assessments if they would accept the minimum wage.
the ATOS Sphinx, the ATOS branded Sphinx.
They would, absolutely, and it's a sort of thing that like there cannot be enough people left swinging the lead in this system who haven't already been like kind of kicked out by the multiple rounds of making this cruel and arduous, and 2-3 years of like constant appeals and stuff like that, and at the end of it you don't even get that much money. It's genuinely not worth it, but they're going through it again because this is what you do. Because there are obviously people in the benefit system swinging the lead. There are obviously people in the benefit system who are stealing money somehow, and that's why we're in the situation we're in. And that's not an analysis. That's a statement of faith.
Yeah, well, you've got one Sphinx that always tells the truth, and that's the one that tells them what to do. And the other one that always tells lies is the one applying for all the benefits.
Yeah, so I do want to, before we move on to like the broader theory, I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about the cuts to the benefit system as well. I don't want to do it in like full detail because, quite frankly, there are other people who have more time and have much more expertise to really like. There's a big report from the Resolution Foundation, I think, that's just come out.
Not from Torsten Bell though, who is
no,
now
of course
an
not.
MP.
He's paying a mortgage these days. That's not the same.
He's got a mortgage to pay, so yeah.
Fucking prick.
Wanker. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, these cuts specifically to the personal independence payments and other elements of the creaking welfare system are coming, and there's a lot of noise right now about like how many MPs are mad, but they'll all vote for it in the end. So like whatever, and they will make an incredibly vicious system even worse. That's kind of, even though, and Phil, you said in your article as well, 70% of PIP claims are won on appeal, which means there's probably a strong sort of written or unwritten incentive to just bounce everybody out on first application.
Oh, I mean, like, let's be real. Like, just to briefly get into like the nitty gritty of like a PIP claim, like your assessor will fucking lie. They will lie by omission and just directly lie about things you are capable of doing, things that you said or didn't say in your assessment. Who I make a joke about a sphinx on minimum wage. The people that do these assessments, for anyone who isn't aware, is some guy who did like a fucking health and social care BTEC. Is like at best will be doing your assessment, but usually it's just some fucking physiotherapist or something.
Yeah.
Who
hygienist is here to examine your spine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like someone who has little to no expertise in like the rainbow of disabilities that people who are totally eligible and should rightfully receive PIP, can suffer from. And 70% of the claim. I mean, we're going to be here all day if we talk about how shit the fucking benefit system is. But like, suffice to say, the point of the system is to dissuade people from even applying, and if you do apply, they will reject you outright. Yeah. Just to put barriers in front of every single person. Which again, if you're a disabled person, each barrier is just that much worse to have to deal with.
Yeah, I know.
It is a eugenic system.
Who did
is what it is.
Yeah, it is 100%. I know multiple people who did not apply for PIP and actually actively waited and deferred any attempts at that until they were able to access the adult disability payment in Scotland when that replaced PIP, purely because you didn't have to go through a fucking capability assessment. There was none of that shit. It is much more straightforward, relies on fucking medical evidence first and foremost, and that's it, and the decision's made by a civil servant who will have access to all of that medical evidence. It's not made up by some dickhead who presumably has some sort of fucking incentive. Otherwise, why would so many of these not make it through?
Yeah, so the idea is like the new system is based on the old one. It's just like it is a tweak, but it's like a horrendous one. Basically, I had a look at this like PIP. It's sort of like it's literally like a score sheet. Like you get a number of points for various areas of disability, and under the old system, where you quote unquote only needed, and that's like there aren't big enough like air quotes to put around that to score 8 points in like all the categories together. There's like I think there's like 8 or 10 categories with different point scores. With like you could, if you are like disabled to the point where you can literally not get out of bed without help, like if you're paraplegic or something, you score 12 points off the bat, and you get the PIP, and that's like job done essentially. But they've changed it now where like you don't just need to like you need to score 4 points, but in one single category. So if you have like low disability, but in several different areas, you no longer are eligible, if that makes sense. Like you need to score high in at least one category.
And like
yes and no. It makes perfect sense, but it fucking doesn't. It's
disgusting.
Idea.
Yeah, I mean, just to put this in sort of some kind of context, this means that if you are someone who is unable to go to the toilet unaided, and that is the primary source of your disability, right? You do not qualify. That is not enough points to receive PIP in this new system. I mean, like it's grim stuff, right? But like at the very least, there are like disability rights orgs and other people who support the rights of the disabled who are going to challenge this shit because it is just gross, outright, ableism, just by the state, eugenicism. Like it's just that's what it is.
It's little
outright.
burden shit. That's what it is. Like, so what I've done, and this is like. This is not for comedy purposes. I should be very clear up front, but just to as a brief highlight for like people who listen as well who may not have like personal connections with the PIP system is like I've compiled a brief version of what I would call the world's cruelest quiz, which essentially asks of my, of everybody else on the pod, under the new rules, so not the old ones, the new ones where you have to get 4 points in at least one category, does this person get at least some level of PIP assistance? Again, this is not for fucking comedy purposes. This is for illustration purposes. So there's 3 people. Person A needs supervision. I've taken this language directly off the form with the point scores. Person A needs supervision or assistance to either prepare or cook a single meal. Person A can take nutrition unaided, but does need supervision or prompting to be able to manage toilet needs. Does this person under the new system get PIP?
No,
they're
absolutely not.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
no.
they do, but only because the needs assistance with food gives you 4 points. The other ones, the supervision to manage toilet needs alone is not enough to get you PIP. But this person does get some, but like the lowest amount, because you only score 8 points in total.
Cool. I'm genuinely surprised.
But also, you just look at the sort of person who this is, someone who needs supervision or assistance to do eating and toilet needs. That's somebody who I would say has quite a high degree of dependency on help there, and the fact that they're only getting the lowest, the lowest amount. Presumably, that means that they can't get all the help they need.
Yeah. So this is person B. Person B can stand and then move more than 200 meters, either aided or unaided, but does need prompting or assistance to be able to make complex budgeting decisions, needs prompting to be able to engage with other people, and needs to use an aid or appliance to be able to speak or hear. Is this person eligible for PIP under the new system?
No, fuck it, no, because it's cool and yeah.
Yeah, correct, David.
Yeah.
This person does not apply because these scores together add up to more than 8 points, but are across different categories, so this person does not get PIP under the new system. Again, this is not for fucking comedy purposes. This is for very serious illustration purposes. I'll do you one more and then we stop the world's worst quiz. This is person C. Person C needs assistance to be able to get in or out of a bath or shower. They cannot cook a simple meal using a conventional cooker, but can do so using a microwave. They need to use an aid or an appliance to be able to manage toilet needs or incontinence. And they need prompting to be able to read or understand complex written information. So this is sort of a complex case.
No. I just like
no, yeah.
I'm going to say I'm going to say no on that one. The first one I think is the one that's supposed to be a trip up here, because
you think so, but that's only 2 points, so not enough.
Yeah, because that's a mobility thing as opposed to like a hygiene thing specifically. Yeah.
So this person also doesn't get it under the new system. Under the old system, they would. Because this is, again, not enough points per category. This is just a lot of points distributed per various categories.
Yeah.
So, again, we're not going to do this anymore because this is like... I want to get on to like the other part of Phil's article, but this is the level of cruelty that is now becoming acceptable, and that indeed, as I was told by Keir Starmer, is a moral mission to get people of this nature back into work.
Which doesn't even make fucking sense. This is a fucking working fucking benefit. You can be in work and claim this. None of this makes any fucking sense.
But that's not true, because they don't think it's true. It's not. None of this is real. None of this is based on reality. None of this is based. You can say until you're blue in the face, here are the facts, and they won't believe you because they can't believe you because it's not based on anything real. It's vibes. It's all vibes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but this is part of the vibes. This was Liz Kendall last week Tuesday. I think David and you and I were watching this as well. I know I was live tweeting it for the podcast. We believe that unleashing the talents of the British people is the key to our future success. But the social security that we inherited from the Conservatives is failing the people that it is supposed to help and holding our country back. So, again, put that
Total
into the
dog
context
shit.
of persons A, B, and C, and ask whether or not the current PIP system is not helping these people. It's not, but it could be worse, which it is where
Which
it's
it
getting.
will be, yeah.
And I think this is part of Phil, and I think you mentioned something along these lines in your article as well. It's I think part of the sort of the philosophical thing and the why is this idea that this is a moral mission. This is sort of very this Protestant thing of if work ennobles you, if work is what is good for people and good for disabled people, and you need to get out there and work because it is good for the human soul, then the converse, almost by necessity, must also be true. Not working, being on benefits, makes you either a bad person or a drag on society, or personally unfulfilled. When they talk about labor as the party of work, I think that's what they're talking about. That work gives you a purpose in this life.
Work makes you free.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Unironically, I think that is what these people.
Genuinely, it is full on Nazi shit. They don't realize it is, but it is. Absolutely, it is Arbeitsmacht. It is this work makes free. It is this absolutely moral Protestant work ethic sort of mission. They're not lying when they say it's a moral mission. They are deadly confused, or confusing rather. I'm not sure that they are confused themselves, but they are confusing because they are talking about things in a way that doesn't have any relationship to reality. They're saying the social security system that we inherited from the Conservatives is failing the very people it's supposed to help. That's true. That's fun.
Yes.
That's absolutely true. But it's not doing so because it's giving too many people too much money.
Yeah,
No.
to
Like,
sit,
that's
to
not-
sit and
that's
loaf
not the
around
thing.
like the fucking
yeah.
grasshopper
So
in the
they've got-
morality tale.
Yeah, they've got this kind of thing where they've identified that it's a problem, but then because they're basing this entirely on this moral belief and the idea that the problem must be the thing that they believe it is, they are saying, well, obviously if the social security system is failing, how does the social security system... Well, a social security system can only fail by giving too many lazy scroungers too much money. There is no such thing as a social security system that fails by giving disabled people not enough money or no money. That's not a thing that they can envisage as an answer to the question in their head. It doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't complete. It's it's trying to get the square peg into the round hole. So they're trying to solve a problem that fundamentally does not exist.
Yeah, and also what I've seen a lot is specifically on the side with people with disabilities is they make a lot of you should, we will incentivize you to get work, get back into work, get some work. It's that's all on the personal level, on you, that you must make that happen. There seems to be very little to no incentive on the part of but we will also write a series of laws that make employers, help you to build, ramps for a wheelchair, or allow you to work from home, or have certain, things to manage your different, psychological conditions if you have any.
This is the party that insists that you must be in the office, and if what is it if you're a civil servant, you have to be in the office 3 days out of 5.
Yes.
Fuck you. And entirely on board with corporate landlords owning massive office estates in central London and extracting a rent from businesses, because that is the one thing you are allowed to be in the UK, a landlord. And anything.
Just to sort of swing back again to the thing we were saying before, if all the houses are being built somewhere without a bus route or with a bus route that doesn't have level boarding, that kind of of this stuff all kind of ties in. You get rid of the blockers. Well, disability accessibility rules are blockers. They're the sort of things that the people who build buildings hate, because they have to consider the disabled rather than just draw a nice squiggly line on a piece of paper and do a big architectural vision thing. They actually have to think about how a building will be used, which architects fucking hate doing because that doesn't win them awards. So you have this thing where you get rid of the blockers, you build stuff, but then the stuff you build is unusable by anyone with accessibility needs,
Yeah,
and
then you
that means
tell the
they
people
can't
on
use
disability that they have to use it anyway because fuck you, we're taking your money away.
Yeah, and then they say, I literally physically can't get into work. There's no ramp here, there's no bus, whatever, I can't get in. And then they go, oh, well, you're just not trying hard enough. We're going to cut your benefits, die.
Yeah.
That's
the one thing in about all of this shit that I seen that was like, do you know what? That is actually some form of a positive change. It does not fucking come close to offsetting any of the bad shit. Is that right to try thing? But then if you consider that in the context of disabled people, they then are expected to, because they will be told to fucking do it.
I mean, it's a right to try, but it will become a duty to try like that. Yeah,
absolutely, it will. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, and they're going to have to keep going through this endless fucking cycle of attend your discrimination, like constantly. Oh, it didn't work out. Why? They didn't have anything in place. Oh, well, that's a shame. Obviously, they've let you go. Never mind. We'll put you back on benefits. But in a couple of weeks' time, you need to come back into the job centre and we're going to start haranguing you as to why you've not found a new job yet. Repeat that fucking ad nauseum. Like, what's the point? It's such a fucking hostile system. Engaging with it serves zero fucking purpose. Like, any of the active parts of it you need to engage with are fully set up just to fuck you off and waste your time. None of it's helpful. And if they don't put the legwork in to actually make this shit helpful, like maybe legislating that all buildings must be fully fucking accessible.
Yeah.
No ifs, no buts. There you go.
And I think
all jobs must have proper support offered. How the fuck do you enforce that? Well, the only way to enforce that is actually through a severe effort to unionise every workplace in the country. Is the Labour Party going to do that in the year of our Lord 2025? Are they fuck?
Well, and also to hire enough people, like inspectors, to go to the buildings and the employers to make sure that they do what they say on paper. That's we have to fire 10,000 civil servants instead. I think this might be a good turn back to Phil, to your article. I just want to read a little bit of it. Why is this what Starmer's Labour want? Why is it that despite Reeves's claim to be driven by commitments to growth and stability and jobs and work and blah blah, everything is just reheated austerity? A mix of vacuity and viciousness that nobody likes or even thinks it will work. But maybe trying to figure out a rational explanation is a hiding to nothing simply because there isn't one. And I think that's to me, I very often see people online saying people like Wes Streeting or Liz Kendall or, Stephen Reed or whoever's in the Labour front bench specifically and their primary minions, their parliamentary secretaries and stuff, they just want to be there a few years so they can cash their chips and go to work for a big corporation or a big consultancy. And I think some of them are like that, but I think most of them are genuinely these are these are. Yeah, but they're weird. They're almost the Japanese soldiers hiding in the jungle 20 years later, but for 1990s era neoliberalism, Blair era 1997. I think that's genuinely where they are at philosophically.
Oh, that's where they think they are. Where they are is 2010.
It's also sort of a cargo cult Blairism, though.
Yes,
because it's not. It is very much kind of they've photocopied Blairism a couple of times now, and they're working off a sheet of paper that all the words smudged. Oh, what does that say? Oh, it doesn't have even the precision and the capacity to actually understand and respond to. And I'm not a fan of Tony Blair by any stretch, but Blair at least had this thing of going, right, okay, we have this housing bubble, we've got a bunch of Thatcherite stuff here. That means we can basically do a have our cake and eat it thing. Blairism was very much about, we're going to try and do some redistribution, but still keep people at the top, still keep the Thatcherite consensus of people at the top, buzzing along, making loads and loads of money. The Peter Mandelson thing, being very, intensely relaxed about people becoming filthy rich.
As long as you pay your taxes.
Absolutely, all of that. It was this whole thing of having your cake and eating it. You can do Thatcherism, and you can have some redistribution so people at the bottom can do stuff. And all it needs is for the housing market to never crash.
Yeah,
And
and to have growth, like that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like this government has
Flipping forward
entirely
in the textbook. Oh no! No!
yeah, that was literally it. It's like, oh, if everyone just mortgages their house over and over and over and over again, then we can just fudge the numbers so much that that we end up with people able to like just to get into massive amounts of personal debt. And that will give the stuff we need in order to make the economy work and move forward. And it worked right up until the point that it didn't. It worked until 2007, 2008 when it all came crashing fucking down. But at least it was a theory that worked until it didn't. Whereas this is trying to do that, but you don't have an overheated housing market.
Well, it was also a theory that worked, as you say, within like the specific material context of the late 90s to the mid 2000s, which is
exactly
the Cold War dividend, the end of the Soviet Union, the dot-com bubble, and then the transfer of the dot-com bubble to the housing stock
thank
bubble.
God for pets.com.
Yeah, but it was this absolutely singular moment in sort of global economic history that cannot be repeated, and yet they seem to think that it could be. And like that's as you say, Phil, like in terms of like how it's sort of, it feels like a photocopy of a photocopy as well. It's just like they just have this sort of automatic assumptive belief of the state should be smaller. Why should the state be smaller? Because, animal spirits, etc., etc. But I don't think they even have like a theory of why. I think they just believe that it should because it should. Like, why should we, chase
it's a set of invocations rather than anything. They're standing at the front. They're reciting the liturgy. It is beyond a point where it's an economic theory. Even an economic theory that's wrong is different from this. George Osborne had an economic theory that was wrong stroke a lie, but he knew he was bullshitting us. George Osborne, to me, I personally think that George Osborne's economic theory was, there's some money that's not mine, that is intolerable. And that was like the full bit of George Osborne's theory. And all the stuff he sold us, he knew he was basically lying about it, in order to get his stuff done.
More money for us, fuck you.
Yeah.
No, I think George Osborne was also George Osborne was also a believer, but like in a different way. I think he genuinely believed that like 2008, 2010 era, expansionary fiscal contraction of like, if, that was the theory at the paper that was later shown to have like massive holes in its spreadsheets. But like that genuinely the theory at the time was, if we retrench the state now and like, therefore the rational consumer can see that in 10 years' time, I'll pay less tax because, the state's being fiscally responsible today. Therefore, knowing this, I will go out and get a new mortgage today on the assumption of like lower interest payments later in my life. Like that's genuinely how that worked. I think George Osborne believed that wholeheartedly. I think he was also like
it can be both.
A cruel man, but yeah.
I think he probably believed it, but he didn't care very much whether it was true or not because it didn't matter. It was
it aligned very nicely. Yeah,
it was very much the sort of thing that like the Cameron Osborne stuff was. Yeah, they probably did believe to a certain extent that it would work, but also they were pissing about with it. If it didn't work, who cares? I'm still rich. So there's this very like kind of. There was this thing going on with them where I don't think they cared as intensely about being proved right or not, which is why when Reinhardt and Rogoff's paper was just totally dismantled, it wasn't even a speed bump. They're just like, oh, okay, that's wrong. Never mind. We're just going to carry on with the thing that we basically wanted to do because it's the thing that helps us to shovel money into our own pockets. That helps us to dismantle the state for the sake of dismantling the state. Because the state gets in the way of, as aforementioned, me shoveling money into my own pockets. It all comes back to George Osborne saying, my pockets, not enough money in these things. All of these things that are in the way of it, I want rid. That basically is George Osborne's, at root ideology. There's other things tacked onto it, but at root, George Osborne and those kind of people at the centre are literally, there is money that's not mine. That is an intolerable situation.
I do find it fascinating, though, but like where George Osborne, David Cameron were both extraordinarily cruel people, but at the same time, who are the ones who are cutting disability this badly? Like,
that's the thing, though. George Osborne wanted to. Ian Duncan Smith, for fuck's sake, stepped in and said, no, you can't do that. That's too far, and managed to fucking get a rebellion going in the Commons that prevented the thing from being moved forward at all. And now we're at a point where the Labour Party, the party which, for a not inconsiderable amount of time over the last fucking decade or so, was mostly against this shit. Like, it's just fucking... Oh.
I think that the thing about the Tories and Ian Duncan Smith is that they did realise that there's a certain amount of give and take. Is that you can basically say, we're not growing because, Bob down the road is, getting the dole and he shouldn't be. But they understood that there was a certain amount to which they were bullshitting about that. And they knew that they could only push it so far before it would start to really backlash against them. And so, while... And this sounds like a defence of the Tories. It's not. It's just that the level of absolute, fundamental, dialed in, we have to sacrifice the fucking poor and disabled in order to save the economy that this current Labour Party has is terrifyingly intense and absolutely immovable. And it, no matter what kind of evidence you have, it will not go in. This is what I mean when I say that they are true believers in a way the Tories never were, because you can't get an Ian Duncan Smith in this Labour Party. You can't do it. There's no room for someone.
Smith is too left wing for the Labour
Party. There's no room for someone as left wing as Ian Duncan Smith in this Labour Party. That's. Do you know what I mean? It's mental. It's fucking mad.
I mean, I've made this point before, but it's like only Nixon can go to China and only the Labour Party can do this to the welfare system, because most of the resistance that you would normally see from like sort of your John Harris's and your comfortable middle would be up in arms when it comes against, if it was the Tories doing this. But because it's Labour and they're all so fucking wrapped up with that as part of their identity as nice people, good people with capital letters, that they're getting mad. Like, I saw that idiot fucking John Harris being like, oh my God, did you know that, the slashing of council budget means that there's very little money for people with disabilities, fucking piece today. But it's like, it doesn't land because the center of gravity of resistance had this been done under the Tories would be the Labour Party. Because, like, even in 2020, when they were in opposition, Keir Starmer did that video of, cutting social services and public services and doing austerity is very bad because it's, a negative multiplier. So it needs the Labour Party to be this level of cruel. Like, it cannot not be. And it's underpinned, and I want to, go back for a moment to your article, Phil, is this belief in growth that as long as they can get the volcano god of the economy back on side again, that there will be, like under Blair, there will be enough sort of crumbs left on the table by global capital that they can hoover up and then sort of do nice things again by the end of their term in 29-30, when the growth will be back. I just want to read a little bit from your piece again. Reeves seems to believe that her powerful invocations of growth are not yet stirring the economy god into action, because now the poor and disabled people are blocking its ears. You're not working hard enough. You're not putting in enough effort. If you were, this would be working. It cannot be because my ideas are trash, therefore into the volcano with you.
This is absolutely the thing. It's this sense of invocation. And when I say it doesn't make any sense as well, if you have any understanding of economics at all, you know that this is not a pro-growth policy.
No.
At all. There is
Poor
nothing...
people and disabled people spend money.
Everyone on this pod and everyone listening to this podcast knows that just basic redistribution is a pro-growth policy. It's as simple as that. That just you put money into the hands of people who are in who have a higher marginal propensity to spend, and as a result of that, then they are going to put money, they're going to go out and spend it, they're going to put it into the economy, they're going to do stuff with it, and that is going to stimulate growth, your basic fucking Keynesianism. It's not, so the idea that you can repeat the strategy of George Osborne, which didn't work, and repeat it for the same reason and in pursuit of the same imagined villains that he and his successors in the Tory party spent 15 years trying to find, and which didn't work, and it's somehow going to work for you, and somehow it's going to produce this amazing, the growth is going to be just around the corner, it feels almost generous to call it a fantasy, because it's delusional. It doesn't have any relationship to any kind of reality. And
no, that's like the other thing I was so curious about, like when Rachel Reeves does this, like it's a mantra in the most literal sense of the word, like the growth thing, right? It's invocational, it's prayer like, and it's like, what is her understanding of the material reality, like the material economy of the United Kingdom? Like, what is her composition? Where does, like, if, as we were talking about earlier, like if their idea, this Labour Party's idea is this sort of copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of like this Blairite agenda, it cannot work because the material circumstances are so different. Like, you cannot run another housing bubble. Like, we've really reached like a fucking terrifying point in that one, and it's like there are certain things you cannot repeat, and then just it strikes me over and over again that also, because of like the essence of treasury brain and this short-sighted thinking, that like the first thing to go out even before they were elected was like this pledge to do green stuff, to build windmills and solar panels and insulate homes and all the stuff that you would think that is an actual, like, looking at the next 20-30 years,
low-hanging fruit.
Not just in the UK, that's everywhere. That's low-hanging fruit. That's like the essence of where a lot of like material growth going to, not fucking AI and data centers, but like building stuff that is a requirement for life on this planet to continue. And the only people who can do it are the fucking Chinese, because of course they are.
One of the fundamental, we're deviating slightly from the disability thing, but I do think one of the fundamental problems that we have in this country at the moment is the economy is geared to an extent that doing stuff is no longer really profitable. The only way you make any money in this country is by owning stuff. If you own stuff, you can make money on it. You can rent extract, and doing stuff isn't that, it's not really going to make you any money. You only do stuff to get yourself onto the property ladder, and then once you become an owning stuff person, then you can really start to make the big bucks. But actually doing stuff, and if you're going to try and push towards growth, you have to refactor that. You have to say, no, we have to make owning stuff be less profitable and doing stuff be more profitable, because we need to do stuff. You can't just have a society of people who just own the stuff that already exists and sit there and extract rent on it from here until doomsday, until it all falls apart, and then just sit there with a thumb glass and go, oh, well, I guess that's all fallen apart now. And in theory, because they say stuff like, well, we want to do this green growth, we want to have this enterprise zone, we want to build houses. In theory, they give the impression of understanding that. But when you look at the details of how are we going to do it, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't relate to the thing they just said. They've identified the problem, and their solution is batshit nonsense. It doesn't relate to the thing they just identified as a problem. It's really wild how disconnected they are, even though they apparently can somewhat understand and vocalize the problem. They cannot get to the point of expressing an actual policy that has a relationship to the problem they just described one sentence earlier.
Yeah, and it's also because they're so dead terrified of like saying anything like that would offend the CBI, in general, but specifically what I'm like, as a sort of almost as like a theological construct that I'm super interested in, is like the role of the Office of Budget Responsibility, the OBR, in all this, because like Rachel Reeves is like the long-term reason for doing this horrendous benefit cuts is to say, well, we want to have more people in work because work ennobles you. But the short-term reason is we need to find a lot of money to plug the black hole because the economy isn't as good as we thought it would be 6 months ago. And all it is like they don't even say like it's because of that. It's they say we have to do it because we have to give our homework, because I think that is how they do see it, to this other institution, the OBR, that is outside of parliamentary control, to score.
Never predicted anything correctly as well.
And that is a George Osborne invention.
Yes.
That's not even that old.
No. But it is like, it's almost like if like the Rachel Reeveses and the Treasury are like sort of the high priests incanting, growth, then like the OBR if you're doing Christian theology is almost like you pray to Maria to intercede or on your behalf with Christ or God. Like you pray to the OBR to intercede for you, with the line, if that makes sense.
I'm not actually doing that. Actually, I think you'll find that growth is just the sound that a Geller field makes. And if we can stop her from chatting at any point, she may be fully subsumed into the warp and we'll be rid of her.
Return from when she came at last.
What the fuck? Sorry, was that a Warhammer reference or something?
Yeah.
Right, sorry.
We need some kind of bell.
No.
I was trying to follow along, and about halfway through before I was like, hang on, he's talking shit. Hold on, I was really thinking you were making a serious point.
Fuck, he's on to us.
Talking shit that's the thesis of this fucking podcast.
Yeah, this podcast is built on the bones of Star Wars, Star Trek, and Warhammer references, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, the foundational texts are Wikipedia and the Bell of Lost Souls. I find, because the papers are now full of it, and Rachel Reeves is also like, oh, we have to bring these cuts in now, and we have to bring them forward because we need to give like our modeling homework to the OBR, and like, and then it's like there's white smoke if the OBR like clears your budget. It's such a mad thing if you think about it for like more than 2 seconds. That like, if democracy like in its current form is a struggle over scarce resources, the state only has so much to spend. Theoretically, blah blah blah. MMR, yes, I know. And there are different interest groups like competing for that, and some shards win and some shards lose, depending on who's in power. And then you layer on top of that this like, we must now give it to this other institution that is beyond our control. And then you say, does this settlement make the line happy? And then you just sort of reflect that back into the material economy. You'd just go, yeah, but it doesn't matter whether or not like these fucking 20 guys with a spreadsheet are happy. It theoretically should matter in a democracy whether or not like shards of capital and labor are satisfied enough with you that you can keep governing for another day. And the weirder Britain gets, the more that bond seems to be dissolved. That we just do that shit for like, why do we make these insane benefit cuts? Well, we justify it with work ennobles you, but really we need to throw these people into the maw of the volcano god, and it's madness. Like, on its own terms, it's insanity.
I think the thing is, as well, is that even if you were to take, like, if I was, put into government, the very first thing I would abolish the OBR. It is just there to say no to good things. Get rid of it entirely.
Yeah,
George
OBR
put it
followed
in
by the Treasury.
Specifically put it in place in order to... but the Office of Budget Responsibility said I can't do it. And they're called the Office of Budget Responsibility, therefore they must be about having a responsible... It's all self-referential nonsense. But even if you concede that modelling and forecast and stuff like that are important in some regard, the speed at which they're doing it, they're responding to it like they're casting entrails every day and reading tea leaves in their cup every morning. That kind of modelling, if it has any value, it's over the long term, and you have to bear in mind that it's got massive, massive error bars in it. The way that Rachel Reeves responds to someone saying, Oh, there's a 40 billion black hole. 40 billion in the case of over the annual budget of the UK. Genuinely, fuck off. Doesn't matter. You will. That's noise. That's the error bars. Over a year, 40 billion here or there. Stuff's going to move up or down. You're going to be out by that much because the numbers that you're dealing with are very, very large. So all of the random noisy fluctuations are also going to be very, very large. If you're jumping like a scared rabbit every time, I've got like 2 billion here I need to save. All of a sudden, the interest rates have changed again. I'm suddenly flush with 10 billion. Now they've changed again, and now I'm suddenly down 5. You're responding to noise, and the way that they are jumping about over this, it's like even if you were to concede that the Office of Budget Responsibility and all this modelling and forecasting is a valid way to govern, the way they're using it is like entrails casting and tea leaves. It's nonsense. It doesn't even make any sense on its own terms.
No, and I think in terms of what their stated outcome is growth and inward investment and, Britain must be the best place for business and blah, 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 all that stuff. It's just like... What you will attract, which is what we're currently seeing, is a lot of like fly-by-night predatory shit. AI companies, flim-flams, scams upon scams. But what you won't attract is like, to just take an example, is like if you're China, if you're BYD, like the massive fucking electric car company, which has just like done other amazing things with batteries, if it's all true with charging. It's like, if you're BYD and you see this Labour government and previous Tories, because they were not better with this stuff either, constantly responding, constantly adjusting, constantly like a deer in headlights, you're like, should I put my business there, or shall I just put another plant in Germany or in France, where they're also insane, but they don't have this like super like scared reaction stuff, when just to put the, as you were saying, like the 40 billion in context, like UK GDP is something like 3.3 trillion. Like, you're almost talking about rounding errors where these people are like just running all over the shop.
Yeah. I mean, what's the point in inventing a god in the economy if you're just going to jump at shadows anyway?
Yeah. It is really like baffling because, as you say, like the whole like kind of the way they're approaching this stuff makes no sense. If you are a inward investor, and again, we're talking about stuff on their own terms, as a good Marxist, nationalize the whole lot. But if you want these people to come in good infrastructure, having a train, having a railway line that runs to the place where you want to build your big battery, brilliant. That's what people want. Having investment in things like sewage, in things like water, in things like electricity provision. That's the sort of thing that they really want.
Phil. We are investing in sewage, by which I mean putting loads of it in the water.
Yeah. So what we need is to find some foreign company that's looking around and going, you know what? I want the shittiest country. I want the country that has the most shit. I want just a country that's just covered in shit. That's who we're trying to market Britain to at the moment.
Yeah. I want to be as close to Nurgle's Garden as I can possibly get a country, and then But it's just. And another thing that I found really, really striking as well is because, like, when Labour came into power, because like this sort of in this mode of self-fulfilling prophecy, is instead of saying we're a new Labour government, which is what Tony Blair, man had a million billion flaws, but he did at least manage to project like, we're finally rid of the Tories, we're rid of John Major and Margaret Thatcher, and this is a new era, new Britain, all that shit, and like this is going to be great, it's going to be good, and you should come here because we're awesome. What was like the first 6 months of like Starmer and Rachel Reeves was literally them just looking the
Tories'
financial eye
is over. Ours has just begun.
Yeah. And like but like these people like looked at the Financial Times and like Capital with a big C straight in the eye and said, we've just come in, it's shit here. It's so shit, we can't believe how shit it is. Britain is a shit place. The government is not fit for purpose. It's shit. And then like 6 months down the line, you're like, yeah, no wonder a lot of people with a lot of money to like who might build a factory didn't come to you because you spent 6 months telling them that it's so shit.
Sorry, I think to a certain extent they did that because it worked for the Tories. The Tories came in and said, we found a note that said there's no money left. The last Labour government left it in a state. Therefore, we are going to do all of this radical stuff and you'll let us get away with it because of this note that we found. And it worked for them. So they said, well, let's try the same thing. But back on them, ha 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 ha, turnabout's fair play, got your nose. And it didn't work because it was a different situation.
It's not even just that it was a different situation. It's the problem is that when the Tories came in, they did a bunch of radical shit, which, yeah, okay, was austerity or whatever, fine. Not great, but it was different. These guys haven't decided they'll do anything different. They've literally just come in and said, what the last guys did, that again. And that is simply what led us here.
While also saying, what the last guys did, that was shit. But also, what the last guys did, that again. So it's this absolute incoherence where they're saying the Tories sucked and everything the Tories did was bad and they left the economy in such a state. All right, what are you going to do to fix it? Well, we thought we'd repeat every single mistake, except we'd turn it up.
Now watch me hit this drive. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
Yeah. What if the last guys hadn't gone too far enough?
Yeah. And what I like... I find these disability cuts, like, just gross and disgusting and undignified,
morally
and
repugnant at the very
morally
least.
repugnant, like
yeah.
at every single last level, right? But what I worry about even more after this point is, like, I don't know, what is it now? 6 months in? It's less than a year into this government, and like
8 months, I think.
Yeah, getting there though.
Yeah, it's like, but my question is, like, and this is like, I want to move towards wrapping this up as well. But like, the last question that I have about this is, like, when they've done this and they've cut $5 billion from the disabilities, and, like, you know, more people are immiserated than ever, and, like, you know, it turns out that it didn't actually incentivize anybody to, you know, start an AI company, you know, from their wheelchair or whatever the fuck. Like, when the growth doesn't come, when the line doesn't get happy, what then? Because either they have to have, like, sort of an ideological crisis, but they'll move to the right to fix it, or at least to, you know, sort of assuage popular anger by being more vicious towards migrants in particular. And I simply don't see, like, materially speaking, the sort of political economy sense, like, where the growth is going to come from, like, long term. Because, like, Britain is so, and by design, so uniquely exposed to, like, global market flows. Like, there's almost no barriers between, like, what happens when the US shits the bed, like the US stock market in particular, and then what happens in the UK because of the links between, like, the London City and then Wall Street. And it's just like, if that's, like, what Britain is supposed to be, like, this mediator between Europe and America, and Europe and America start, like, fucking hating each other.
A city-state off the coast of Europe. That's what we are.
Yeah. But if that model no longer works, and if what you have left is, like, landlordism, or you're so exposed to, like, the mercy of the Bank of England setting its interest rates for, like, the sum total of your economic project, and, like, you specifically place the Bank of England outside of your democratic control. So, like, you make yourself totally dependent on the OBR and the Bank of England, and you say, yeah, but we should have no control over those things because they are, you know, that's the choir of angels. We can't interfere with that. It's madness.
It's absolute madness. It really, really is, and it's stupid. And I think the problem is that, you know, I think you alluded to this earlier when you referred to them being, like, kind of like just in it to, like, kind of get the paycheck now, get themselves lined up for the consultancies and get out. I think that it's it's undercosted how much of this stuff is them genuinely believing that they're very, very, very clever and that this is all a great scheme and it will totally work, and just being fucking dumbasses who don't know that it won't.
Yeah.
It's really, that's...
like, they're white... They're just... You see it now. They're telling their MPs, it's like, this is terrible. We know it's terrible, but we just have to, like, fucking white knuckle our way through it, and then the growth will come.
Yeah, and it won't, because they're doing anti-growth stuff. They're taking money out of the economy. They're shrinking stuff. They're making people unemployed. It's not going to work. basically their entire thing is they're like, right, okay, well, AI is going to solve it all. AI is going to be our equivalent of Tony Blair's .com bubble. Yes. When that doesn't work, because that's already, you know what? If it turns out that we're all here with AI being like, oh, iPhones, that'll never catch on, I'll hold my hands up. But I think the smart money is on the AI thing already being mostly played out. Right?
I mean, everyone fucking hates it. Say what you will, at least you got a website out of pets.pets.com.
Yeah, maybe even some dog food if you were lucky.
Yeah.
What
does AI serve you?
There was at least something there, even in the .com, even though it was dealing with intangibles, and even though it was very like kind of tulip craze with, as you said, pets.com and all the rest of it, there was at least something tangible there. Pets.com was at least trying to sell you dog food. This is trying to sell you something. It's trying to sell you an abstract conception of future gains, which is as bubble as you can get.
To get sort of back to the
sorry, I just massively distracted.
To the theological.
We can have a 5-minute hate for AI. It's fine.
Is what in a sort of weird overlap is like. If what Rachel Reeves and Labour are trying to do is like appeal, is to find the growth god and, throw enough people, sacrifice enough people to make the growth happy. Like the promise of AI is to find the god in the machine, right? Yes, AI is shit now and nobody uses it, but in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, tomorrow, depending on who you read and who you believe, we will have agentic AI and then we will have like AGI and then, and then Rocco's Basilisk and then, like it's you're both like, it's sort of at the end of this sort of stage of late capitalism where like the wheels are so clearly coming off the whole thing and the inequality is like so insane that you have to Klarna a fucking kebab. All these people have left is sort of like cycle more quickly to see if they can find the god in the machine. Because if they don't, and the whole thing's fucked, then their life's project, their personal sort of ideological makeup, the thing that they fucking burned the Corbett project down to the ground for, among many other reasons, is like, turns out to be a phantasm. And I think like that would like be such a personal, like, apart from like an institutional crisis, that would be like such a personal crisis for these people that they would not be able to cope. That would be like physically unacceptable to them.
No, it's not just that though. Like with the AI thing, like you just listed off a whole bunch of things that AI has promised, right?
Yeah.
If we can go over the hump of it being shit, this is the good stuff that we'll get out of it. We won't, obviously, but at least they can articulate some ideas of what they think it might be able to do. What has this government said that we will be able to do once we go over the fucking lack of growth hump? Fuck all. There is nothing there. They don't have any ideas past this because they can't envision or imagine a world where they are not constantly fighting for more growth, for more people in work. There is no actual sunny uplands for them. It is just an eternal struggle.
Well, I mean, this is really why they were so angry at Corbyn. Among other things. But because if you actually deliver the sunlit uplands, what's the fucking point of them? What's the point of people who stand there and say, no, you have to compromise, you have to do this, you have to do the other, there's no such thing as a free lunch, you have to make tough decisions.
Except for the lunches that we get given.
They fucking hate the idea that we could come out the end of this and have fixed it somehow. Because then there's no use for them anymore, is there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, essentially, like, the Labour right exists, and we've been through this on the podcast before, the Labour right exists to stomp the left. And now that they have achieved that, this is what they are. This is them. This is what they spent.
Yes. Yeah. In a lot of ways, absolutely.
Now they're going to try and stomp the whole country into the dust underneath their shoes because, like, right, okay, now we've got the country in. We've got rid of we're in charge, and now we're going to, smash the disabled people. Now we're going to smash the unemployed. Now we're going to try and destroy, and eventually we'll find the enemies who are keeping us from from doing growth. Eventually we'll find the group of people who are in the way and we'll beat them up enough and they'll be out the way and then growth will happen. And that's
First I stomped the communists because I hated them.
Yeah.
Anyway, and on that delightful but grim note, I think we'll not. This is not a conversation we're done with, I think, but I do think that this is as good a place as any to stop us from falling into repetition.
As you can tell, I've probably got another 3-4 hours of just utter batshit ranting about.
Allow me to list the ways in which I hate the Labour right.
Yeah, just we didn't even get onto why can't any journalist ask them anything like a sensible question?
Oh,
just
well. Shall we play a little game of comment or commentariat so we can get that little bit of journalist hate in?
Go on.
The left's great political trick of the 2010s was defining austerity as a social ill rather than an efficiency drive that released economic growth and reinvigorated global investor confidence.
What?
It is time for a reset. What might be called the new austerity. The state can indeed be a facilitator, but it does not have the skill or breadth to beat the market signals of price and demand. If Reeves is truly brave and wants to be a history-defining chancellor beyond the happenstance of her gender, then she should be the politician who understands the smaller state narrative from the left. Businesses will thank her, as will the voters who rely on the public services she so ardently wants to improve.
Fuck.
Comment or commentariat.
Liz
Jesus
Kendall, learn to use
Christ.
a computer to put this on the internet. That's got to be commentariat. That is.
I mean,
smells like
it's
the
in
Telegraph.
commentariat zone. Is that in Conservative Home by any chance?
It is not, no. Only Rob reads from the websites with conservative in the name.
Unfortunately, in researching for articles, I've had to read Conservative Home.
You should read Conservative Woman. That's where the true delights are found.
I'll leave that one to you. Yeah. Commentariat.
That was commentariat. That was Kamal Ahmed writing for the Telegraph.
Yeah,
Reeves
I knew it.
should shock the left and welcome back austerity.
Fuck me.
Jesus
What
Christ.
do we even say to that? Social Murder was
know.
good, actually. I mean, yeah, obviously in the Telegraph.
It's when they say stuff like, but it turbocharged growth. It's like, where, motherfucker? What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm looking at that OBR graph from
didn't. It just objectively fucking didn't. What are you talking about? I'm gonna shoot myself in the head.
Yeah, I'm looking at that OBR graph from 2017, and
It's incredibly sad. The MAGA Americans destroying goodwill and trust across Northern America and the Western world. What can we do? We should help to fight the MAGA movement and try to establish hate-free social media platforms for Europe, Canada, and the US too. No more Musk or Zuckerberg. Dear Americans, please go out and talk to your neighbours, meet your community, visit town hall meetings, and organise peaceful protests. Comment or commentariat.
I'm going commentariat again. And how dare anyone suggest anyone talk to an American? Fuck that.
Comment. Comment. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to comment.
Is this the rally to restore sanity, Jon Stewart, circa 2012?
This was a comment in The Guardian, and it was a Guardian pick because their sad little moderators go in and find the worst comments for you and save you a hell of a job. This article was, in Canada, I saw how Trump is ripping North America apart and how hard its bond will be to repair. By Andy Beckett, so thanks for that one, Andy, and creating that comment. I loathe the Tories with every fibre of my being.
But
while their travails give me a strong sense of schadenfreude, especially after the last 14 years, I am also concerned at the prospect of their demise, leaving more space for the odious Toad Farage. The whether Farage is able to control more than a handful of MPs is debatable. We do need an effective opposition. It's ironic that most opposition is coming from within the government itself. This just shows that election landslides are not always a great idea. Comment or commentary.
Oh,
That's just incoherent.
me.
What the fuck is that person even saying?
And that's the
centrism.
joys of
It's
the
like-
game.
That's pure, uncut fucking centrism.
What that person is saying is like, the left hand is strong, but now it needs a strong right hand.
So we can we can do like the wanking off motion with both a strong left and right hand. Jesus Christ.
So we can bring both fists down at the one time, like Captain Kirk onto the back of the reptile, which is the public.
Oh man, that honestly, that's flummoxed me, because that could easily go either way.
That's the game.
On the basis of how mad this has made Phil, I'm going to say commentariat.
Yeah. No, this is a comment in The Guardian.
No, he's done comment in the Guardian. Oh, but is he faking us out?
Yeah.
Comment, but I'm not gonna risk it. Just comment.
That was a comment in The Guardian.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
The article being Kemi Badenoch is failing to hit the spot at PMQs and everywhere else by Andrew Ronsley.
Fuck off!
Andrew
The trick to this is always just find the most inconsequential looking bullshit you can find in The Guardian, and it's always going to have solid comments in it.
Well, it's always going to be John Crace, because he's the cunt that loves writing about PMQs.
Yeah, do you know what? I actually got as far as clicking on a Crace article, and I think who's the one? Was it? Let me see. I might still even have it open here. Oh yeah, there was a Zoe Williams article. Reeves's Sabrina Carpenter freebie furore proves today's politician should avoid one thing: fun. So
What the
there's
fucking-
probably shit in. Yeah. There's probably some good shit in there, but I never even fucking read it because I'd managed to find enough stuff. Anyway, moving on to the next one. Finally, I understand online peer pressure. I now sympathise with the very online young who find themselves besieged by armies of influencers barking, think this, say this. No, it wasn't Andrew Tate and the other scum of the manosphere who opened my eyes to the dangers of virtual conformity. It was the cultural establishment and its crazy fawning over the anti-Tate Netflix drama, Adolescence. Comment or commentary.
I'm sorry, I can't answer because I'm busy hunting for my gun to shoot myself in the fucking head.
Oh, well, we can leave that one in at least. I'm going to say commentariat.
Yeah, commentary at Daily Mail. No, commentary at Mail on Sunday.
It is commentariat, but I don't know who. It's just such a wide range of cunts. Like,
It is. You should be thinking of a taller range of cunts, though, Rob. That was commentariat. And it
was that Brendan?
Brendan O'Neill in spite.
he's been absent for a while. Welcome back, Brendan.
He has. It's because that was the very. You know how normally you can agree with the first article or a Brendan O'Neill article? That's how he does it. That's his game. He writes a thing that you go, and then everything after it's complete dog shit. That was the first paragraph. He's slipping.
Yeah.
Right.
Game's gone.
Yeah.
Game's gone. Right, last one. Even Labour now admits that mental health problems are overdiagnosed, and there has been an explosion in the number of
yourself.
and there has been an explosion in the number of scare quotes therapists who are free to set up shop without any qualifications. No wonder we've got a mental elf epidemic. These
Little
quacks have to justify their existence somehow, so they are hardly going to tell someone who claims to be suffering from anxiety to go home, pull themselves together, and get a job. The Mail's front page headline, death of the work ethic summed it up perfectly. Gen Z has been brought up to believe that they're entitled to something for nothing. My generation learned that if you wanted anything out of life, you had to earn it. I started working delivering newspapers when I was 11.
Am I here like, back when I was a child, I had a latchkey and I could hit my friends over the head with a steel pipe and that made them work harder.
Boys of my age had milk and grocery rounds. The girls worked in shops or swept the floors in hairdressers on Saturdays. School holidays were spent delivering leaflets, picking fruit, or in my case, working in the car park at the East of England showground. Comment or commentariat.
That's got to be Little John is like
if it's not Little
standing out
John.
at me.
Yeah, that's.
If it's not Little John, it is a commenter.
Andrew Neil, I think, is also a strong possibility.
No. It's the Alfred Safety. The Alfred Safety. That's Little John's thing. If it's not Little John, it might well be a commenter who is doing like a Little John knockoff. But I think it's Little John. And
That's
also, I
had
had
yeah. It is Little John in the Daily Mail. Yes.
Yeah.
The young are supposed to pay tax to support the old. Now, women over 65 are slaving away to pay for work-shy youths.
Please, Mr. Cuba, won't you fix it for me to get one of those cool ray guns that gives people headaches?
I would settle for
Yeah, well, we may... But those are the jokes we cannot leave in the podcast.
Sorry. Bleep that out.
Oh, dear. We've gone so far, so long. without
Well, Jamie's not here. Someone had to fill in.
It's true.
Sorry, just... you know what? I kind of thought I need to get at least one thing they've got to bleep out in this when I came in. The thing is, I listen to this podcast and I always get to comment and commentary. Oh, good, comment and commentary. I like the nice little, kind of, the little aperitif at the end, the little bit of comic relief, the light-hearted bit. It's different when you're in it.
Isn't it just?
The fucking psychic damage I just took there. I had no idea. It's...
Yep, every week.
Jesus
Won't you join
Christ.
me, Mr. Bond?
330 episodes in, and we are, if anything, more normal than ever.
Yes.
Wow.
Very much so.
Anyway,
Yeah.
and on that, massive compliment from Phil. Thank you.
So, thanks for listening, folks. If you would like more episodes, which I don't know why you would, but some of you do for some reason.
You really need to stop doing this fucking thing down.
I will not, because I really feel like I should. One of us has to. It's the only way to keep ourselves honest. So yeah, patreon.com/praxiscast. 2 episodes a month. Andors will continue, etc.
Until morale improves.
Yes. Well, no, actually, not until then, because we'll be at it forever. Merch is also available, praxiscast.gmail.com. Get your t-shirts there. And also, of course, there's the Twitch streams, which happen on Sunday, which happen at 6:30 on Sunday evenings, twitch.tv/praxiscast. There we go. And yeah, Phil, thank you very much for coming on, mate. Much appreciated.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
You can find Phil on all the quality apps. At McDuff.bsky.social.
So I've just realised I don't know what my Blue Sky thing is. It's McDuff.bluesky.social is me if you would like to follow me on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And read the article that he did on Novara Media. It's quite good.
Mm-hmm. It is linked below in the show notes.
And follow my editor, Harriet Williamson, as well, who's working for Novara and is the only reason I've got most of my stuff published in the last 2 years, who really believes in me and is a very good editor and writer in her own right.
And on that note, I think that will do us for yet another episode. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time on the bonus.
Yep.
Bye.
Cheerio.
Bye.